Hi, and welcome to the first of this four-part presentation on collaborative learning. My name is Michelle Geiskamper, and I am a communications instructor on the Piasta campus. And I'll be kind of guiding you through the first two parts, collaborative learning definition, and also providing you with a couple of examples of collaborative learning. We're going to delve into in this presentation are just the basics of collaborative learning. And so we'll talk about what it is, why it's beneficial, and then we'll get into how you might use it in the classroom. As a general definition, collaborative learning looks a lot like group work. You may have talked about cooperative learning, which is a portion of collaborative learning or a type of collaborative learning, but all collaborative learning in general has these characteristics. Number one, the learner is the primary focus of instruction. Instead of maybe even the content is important, but it's in how we deliver that content. And so because of that, interaction and doing become kind of the primary focus. Working in groups is the mode of learning, and so we might put students into groups and let them discover the content, discover what's important, not necessarily what's important, but have them discover the main points through collaboration. It also includes developing solutions to problems. So some of you who are in programs, where you have problems and you must kind of think on your feet, collaborative learning can be developed to help solve those problems. It's a way to discuss material. It's a way to create meaning, and also a way to apply concepts. In collaborative learning, learning is active for both the facilitator as well as the learner. In a normal classroom, a lot of times it's the lecture. The instructor is kind of the primary focus. In collaborative learning, that flips a little bit. The instructor becomes a facilitator and kind of goes along and guides students in the mode and the way in which that they will get that information. And so that's where the doing comes in. So the students don't necessarily just passively listen, but now they're actively creating meaning from what's been provided for them by the instructor. Why does collaborative learning work in the classroom? Well, there's a couple of reasons. Number one, learning is best done as an active, constructive process. When we can create our own meaning, a lot of times that allows for deeper understanding. And so because learning is an active process, collaborative learning lends well to that because it is active. Students are doing something, whether that be discussing, whether that be something more hands-on, but it is an active process in collaborative learning. Learning also depends on rich contexts, and so using real-world problems, real-world situations and scenarios, that allows students to then apply that knowledge. Learners are diverse. We know that no two learners are the same, and so depending on how you group students, you can group them in lots of ways. You can do that where everyone is at the same ability level. You can do mixed ability level. If you're talking about diversity in terms of ability, you also have diversity in terms of culture and language, and mixing students together can be a very beneficial thing because we get new perspectives, new ways of doing things. There might be several ways to solve a certain problem, and in a group of diverse learners, we kind of get at those different ways to solve that same problem. Learning by its mode is generally very social. We like to be with other people. We like to talk and chat with other people. And so it allows for that social learning to occur. And the last is called Vygotsky's zone of proximal development. And what that means is that there's sort of a sweet spot when we're going about education. There's a point where things are too easy, and really instruction in that is maybe not necessary because we can do that already on our own. There's also a point that it's too difficult. It's nearly impossible to do this by myself. And so collaborative learning happens in this zone of proximal development, the sweet spot where it's not too easy and it's not too difficult, but yet it's just difficult enough that with some help, I can get there. I just need a little bit of push or a little bit of assistance. And so what I couldn't do on my own, I can with the help of others. And so it kind of hits all of those really good things. In terms of where students are going to be after they leave NICC, collaborative learning prepares students for the future. It allows them to be involved. It gives them success for those students who maybe couldn't do those things on their own. It allows them some success. It also allows those students who are maybe at the top end to help teach those who are at the bottom. And so, you know, it's a good place for all students to be. There's this idea of cooperation and teamwork. It helps us overcome our differences. We are allowed the opportunity to work with one another. We learn how to care for each other. Collaborative learning also allows for the honoring of all voices. So if I'm in a group of 4, I'm much more likely to speak out and to provide my opinion rather than if I'm in a class of 25 where I may feel intimidated. If my voice is honored, I'm probably more likely to voice that opinion. In a small group, that happens, and then hopefully that translates into, you know, larger participation throughout the whole class on a large group scale as well. It allows us to learn about, or allows students, I'm sorry, to learn about civic responsibility. There's this idea that we have a responsibility to participate. It teaches civil discourse, which now is maybe more important than ever, how to have a conversation, how to disagree politely with someone, voice our opinions, and it also allows for democratic thinking, that everybody has a voice, everybody can join in and collaborate. In terms of college life, a lot of times it does increase retention. We see students that there's more involvement with their peers and also, you know, with the instructor because it's more one-on-one. Students who have relationships with other students and with teachers tend to have, you know, a positive experience, and so they want to stay. They do better academically. They may ask more questions. It increases their college success as they go on because they are learning these very valuable skills. Now, with every educational concept, there are some challenges, but there's also a lot of opportunities. And we talked about opportunities, I think, the reasons why it's very good. But some of the challenges, it does involve a rethinking of your syllabus and traditional classrooms. This isn't, you know, the classrooms that we maybe learned in, depending on age and experience. Competition and individualism in classes like this is eliminated. You know, it becomes a collaborative group think kind of thing. It's not one person doing all the work. It's a collaborative effort. And so it does involve kind of a rethinking of how things have been done and maybe how we were even taught in colleges and high schools. Time is a factor. When we allow students to create their own meaning, it takes a little bit longer. Lecturing is fast, it's efficient. You know, the information is out, whether we use a PowerPoint or whether, you know, we're just speaking. When we have students, you know, read an article, do something hands-on, and then have them talk about what they learned as a result, that does take more time. And so you have to kind of work that in there. That's maybe a challenge. There's this interdependent community, and so it makes us reassess our relationships. The teacher is maybe obviously still in charge, but not as maybe powerful. You know, we're putting some of that power into the hands of the students because they can create meaning and get at what the instructor wanted them to, but they have some of that power. Assessment becomes a challenge also, because how do you assess? You have those students, and this is the last point on the slide, who don't like participating in groups because they feel like they have to do all of the work. If they're grade driven or really like to take charge, sometimes this is difficult for them because they want to know how they're going to be graded. They want to do what they have to do in order to get an A or to get the score that they really desire, and that can be difficult for students. And so we must, as instructors, rethink perhaps how we're assessing. Will it be a group grade? Will it be an individual grade? Will it be a combination of of the two. And the presentations that follow will talk more about how to assess. The last thing to think about maybe is the design of your classroom. Some of us might be in small classrooms, some of us might be in really large classrooms, or have lots and lots of students. And so how do you work with this group atmosphere if you have a large group of students, or if your space doesn't allow for that? And those are some of the challenges to think about as we delve into this collaborative learning experience. Part 2 of this, we'll talk about examples of collaborative learning, so stay tuned.